what is your bold prediction for this season?
I feel like you ruined it for me earlier because you talked about UConn potentially going undefeated.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and today we have a very special guest. She is CBS sports writer, Isabel Gonzalez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I've been super excited to do this.
Man, we're excited to have you. And let me tell you, Isabel is going to get us ready, okay, to preview the women's college basketball season, which starts on November 3rd. Really looking forward to it. And we're going to be getting into everything from players to watch, teams that could surprise us. I mean, are way too early, by the way, Final Four predictions. I feel uncomfortable giving these this early, but we are going to give those to you later. But before we get into that, make sure that you're connected with us. All of the ways are below. I mean, from We Need to Talk on social. You can tap in with me on social at Tall Swag. And also remember to hit that subscribe button because you want to be connected with all this women's college basketball content we have coming for you. We have a QR code that you can scan, get to everything. It's right here. Get to everything that you need. And I mean, it's very easy. So tap in with us if you're not already tapped in. Now, Isabel, let's just kick this off. I mean, I'm really excited to talk about the women's college basketball season. I just remember how electric it was last season. This season is going to be no different, but let's just start off with players to watch. If there were any that you wanted to pinpoint, who would they be and why?
I'm going to start with Sarah Strong. I made a top 10 players list for the preseason, and she was at the top. That was probably my easiest decision, to be honest. I just love what I saw from her as a freshman. And, being the best player on the best team, I think, that puts you at number one. She's just so versatile. And I just feel like she plays with such maturity. And again, she was a freshman, and now this is her sophomore year. UConn's deeper than ever. And if she's a leader of a really, versatile and deep team, that's just dangerous. And then second player, I'm going to say Tania Latson. Because she's obviously a great shooter, but I'm not even just saying it because of that. I'm saying it because she's playing for Dawn Staley. And I talked to Coach Staley last week, and I asked her hey, your team's always known for defense. So you have this really strong offensive weapon that you're bringing in. So, what's that going to look like? And she actually told me that Tania has really been working on becoming more well-rounded. Because, Dawn Staley's teams are always well-rounded. You don't have just one go-to player that only does one thing, and that's what she's used to. So I feel like if she follows Dawn Staley's system, she's just going to be so dangerous, just being more well-rounded overall.
Well, and one thing I'm excited, both of those players are on my list for sure. But Tania Latson being in Dawn Staley's system is really exciting to me because she's obviously so amazing on offense, and they need that. They do need that. We could see that from last season, right? But saying that she's going to be more well-rounded just makes me think of danger for everybody else, right? When you have a player that's already the leading scorer in the nation, right? And then you make her more well-rounded on the team that Dawn Staley has, must watch for sure. And Sarah Strong, man, the thing that just really gets me about her is that she has absolutely no fear in anything. And when you are a basketball player of her caliber, and then you add that no fear aspect to it, I mean, the sky is the limit when it comes to Sarah Strong. So any team that has her on it, being UConn, obviously, but any team that would have a Sarah Strong type player is a team to watch. And she's certainly a player to watch. Now, both of those players, like I just said, are on my list, but I feel like there are some players that don't get talked enough about, Isabel, like just players that I think have a lot of promise that maybe didn't underdeliver last year, but just didn't get kind of the notoriety that some of these other players got nationally. And we all know that happens. There's so many good players out there that it doesn't always translate to every single one that should get some burn. But I'm going to go with Keomi McMiller. She is a player that, you want to talk about somebody who is great at offense. Her handles are sick. She goes viral for those, but she had somewhat of a rocky season last year at Rutgers. we don't know what happened. There was a lot of kind of chippiness that happened in and around that. But what I get excited about players that are transferring for one reason or another, while we may not understand it, we know that we're going to see something that happens, some kind of response that happens. And I think it's going to be a really good one with her going to Penn State. She has just been a powerhouse in high school. Like I said, her season was a bit up and down last year, and there was a lot of kind of like controversy around it. But I just really look for good things to happen with her in this Penn State offense. And her coach, Carolyn Kiger, she already said that she is a fan of her leadership among many things. So when I hear coach reports like that, and I just know the player that she is, I'm really excited to see what she does with this fresh start. Jordan Lee, if y'all have been watching this, you already know I'm going to say her name. We don't need to go into depth all the way, but I will say she had a great showing last year for Texas in the Final Four. And just the tournament period. She was all SEC Freshman of the Year. She started 5 games last season, but I really look to her to have some great play this year. And I have to say, I just have to say one more. Please forgive me, Emma, for the rundown and the time. But Medina Okot, she's already doing fantastic things for this South Carolina team. She's a transfer from Mississippi State. She showed us what she could do. Like, granted, it's preseason. I understand you have to take it with a grain of salt, but she shows us what she could do on both sides of the floor in a fantastic start. And Dawn Staley said you can see her dominance. It ebbs and it flows, but you can see it just really scratching the surface on how dominant she can be out there. So Okot, I expect to see some great things from her. So definitely give her a watch.
I love that you brought her up because she is going to play a huge role. I think with South Carolina, we've all been talking about Tanaya Latson for obvious reasons. But I think as a whole, Dawn Staley was talking about the bigs and just everybody doing so good this summer and just kind of, being overlooked in a way. Because I know they had some injuries. You had Chloe Kitts out. But I don't know. I think it's going to be exciting. If Coach Staley, who doesn't overhype anything, if she's already bringing up these players, I think that's really cool and it is dangerous. So yeah, I'm glad you brought her up.
Yeah, no, she's one that I just cannot wait to keep watching because she's going to be doing some great things. And she's also a transfer. Anytime a player is transferring, I'm looking at what they do on the new team because there is a reason. We don't know what it is, but there's a reason. And those fresh starts could really jumpstart like a player's career if it already hasn't happened. So definitely looking for that. But we've talked about players, okay? There's so many players to watch this season, but what about teams? If we're taking a look at, the teams from last season, there are a lot of people who are going to be kind of same in the contention this year. But if there are any top teams that you think we have to watch right away, who would they be?
I think UConn is a no-brainer. Yes, Paige Beckers is gone, but I think the people you return, AC Fudd, Sarah Strong, so many other key players, they're going to be so good. And for me, the main thing is they're not super injured like in previous years. Every season, like for the past few years, there's been something big going on. Right now, they're healthy, and that's scary because this is Junior Oriema we're talking about here. I think it was really funny to see last season AC Fudd and Sarah Strong. They would be in press conferences with Paige Beckers, and they would make her talk. But now it's their team, so they can really hide behind that. And I know you kind of mentioned, that leadership and being more vocal is like something that's important for a player. So I think that's going to be big for them too. I talked about Sarah Strong being like my top player this season. I think AC Fudd is going to be so dangerous too because we know she's an amazing shooter. But she's also, we have to remember, this was her first off season that she was actually healthy in a while. So you see her working with Steph Curry's trainer, and then she's already really good. She just won a national championship, and she's going to take on a bigger role. She's going to be scary as a leader. I know we talk about Sarah, but also watch AC. Just watch, do his thing. So UConn's my number one for this one.
Yeah, Gino doing his thing and also the depth that they have. I think
Yes.
Gino, there was some quote that basically said he has to become more comfortable. It was something along the lines of he had to become more comfortable with the rotations, with actually subbing people in. Specifically, I have to learn how to sub again. We've had 3 or 4 years where there's nobody to sub. Some of our guys have never played on a full roster. When you think about what they've accomplished with a roster that wasn't necessarily quote unquote full and what they have now, must watch for sure. Must watch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the players we had mentioned, KK Arnold, also, a player to watch. I think a lot of UConn players, everybody's so good. I think everybody forgets that UConn is just like a bunch of stars. So then you have, we all talked about Paige, right? But you have players like KK who, since I met her like her freshman season, she's been super funny. And then, she would always try to like bring out that personality off the court. On the court, is not as consistent. But she's been taking some steps like every season. So that's going to be really good to see her, take on a bigger role this year. But it's just going to be such a fun team, honestly.
Yeah. And something that's very underrated when people talk about, yeah, okay, Paige is gone, but she's played with these players. She's essentially in a lot of ways brought them up, and they have, the aspects of who she was, her leadership and everything still, right? They've acquired that on top of being fantastic players themselves and also being coached by Gino. Okay.
Mhm.
That right there is number one.
Yeah.
But, even though Paige isn't on the team, she definitely, the aspects of her game and who she was and how it translated into being a great leader as well is still there in many aspects. Like when you're playing with a player like Paige for as long as some of those players have, like you're going to be a better player for it. And so all the way around, like UConn is one to watch without a doubt. And I would also say South Carolina. We talk about that team now. Obviously, they came up short last season. So there's a little I don't care what anyone says. When you didn't have the season that you thought you were going to have the season before, you got a little chip on your shoulder going into this one. And while I don't think that Dawn is focused on that by any means, it's still there. It's still there. And so, yes, they lost Chloe Kitts, unfortunately, to an ACL tear, but they are incredibly deep. They have stars on this team. We already talked about Tanaya Latson. The list goes on and on with the people who are on the team that make this team, that are going to make this team even better. And the offense is something that I'm really, really excited about. Not to say that they didn't have any last season, but with Tanaya Latson on the team, it's just going to improve this team overall in leaps and bounds when it comes to offense. And then you add in that defense that they're known for. You're being coached by Dawn Staley, let's be clear. And so why I think they're going to have a lot of different I don't want to say it's like the Aces season where they had to kind of like find their footing and overcome a lot of things. I think that's how it's going to be for them. But I also think that this team is going to prevail in the end because of just the stacked roster that they have and the coaching that they have, not only from Dawn Staley, but her entire staff.
Yeah, I would say South Carolina is always an interesting team for me because they don't have they don't always have the household name of the entire country. It's not like when Iowa had Caitlin Clark, or Paige Beckers at UConn. I think that's a team that just kind of works with everybody being really strong. They're also all very talented, but there's not one star. And I think that's why, Chloe Kitts getting injured, that didn't matter. MiLaysia Fulwiley leaving, that doesn't matter because you have all these players who are used to Dawn Staley's system, which is based on next women up. And she's been super vocal about it. One injury, it's okay. Someone graduates, it's okay. Because I forgot what the minutes were, but nobody plays 30 minutes for Dawn Staley, like in one game. It's spread through the entire roster, and that makes him really hard to scout.
Isabel, you're absolutely correct. The next woman up thing is something that always makes me never count out South Carolina because Dawn has a plan always. She knows the players that she has recruited. She knows who's on her roster and she knows the talent that she has. Like maybe there isn't somebody who's starting, but she knows who's going to contribute, who should be the next woman up and who can be, right? And so when it comes to a South Carolina team, I feel like, I mean, I've been to like 4 or 5 straight Final Fours, I believe. And you can never count a team out like that, because the planning, the execution, and everything, that is something that goes on for years of either recruiting, bringing players in. And like I said, knowing who you have and knowing that no matter what, you're going to have somebody to step up. So I can't say enough about South Carolina. I mean, they're just good. Like they're solid. They're iconic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, a team that actually has a player who was on South Carolina last year, and that is LSU. They're an interesting one for me. When I think about and look at all the polls, a lot of people don't have them like near the top, but I think they're one of the teams that I think is definitely going to surprise a lot of people moving forward, because they are really deep. They have some great talent, not only in like Flage, Michaela Williams. I mean, we could go down the line in that. And then they also have a new standout that I also think is somebody that should be watched, and that is Zakiya Johnson, a 5-star guard from Shelbyville, Kentucky. She had a fantastic first game. Mind you, they were playing a D2 school, but it was still like amazing. 22 points, 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. She's a player I think you should watch, but more of a testament to why I think LSU is going to be so good is that they just have really depth in their roster, Isabel.
Yeah, I agree. And my biggest question for LSU, I talked to the coaching staff recently. It's going to be a bit of a transition to not have a double machine like Angel Reese or Anissa Morrow. So I was like, okay, I know your team is talented, but do you have someone who will take on that role? And they said no. There's not a double machine right now, but rebounding is going to be a little bit different now. It's going to be a bit of a team effort, because right now there's not one player that can really replace those two. I mean, they're obviously very unreplaceable, but that's going to be really interesting to, share that responsibility, because that's one of the biggest things that made LSU so good. I still feel like they have the talent, but that's going to be really new for sure. And then, of course, you have MiLaysia Fulwiley at the point guard position. So that's also a huge question as to, like, how is that going to go, because she's so talented. But point guards have to play really smart. And that was, she's a smart player, but she also sometimes is kind of like impatient. And that's one of the things she was working on in South Carolina. So, of course, when you're playing point guard, you want to kind of reel back in sometimes and like take your time with your decisions. But that's going to be fun if she eventually kind of like gets to that point. But you have a lot of good leadership in Flage Johnson. Yeah, of course, Michaela Williams. So those two are veterans. The team's going to be fine with them.
Well, and to your part about MiLaysia Fulwiley, Coach Mulkey actually said she has brought her to the side and told her, like, you're taking that shot now, but what are you going to do when we're like down by 1? Like, would you do the same thing? And so she's making her kind of think and retool about this decision-making process. And when she does, she's going to be dangerous. Like, she's already dangerous, but like, think about that when you have been like tuning and fine tuning the things that you need to work on. And it sounds like they're doing just that. So when I think about that, when I think about just the depth of the roster that they have, and I know they said they don't have a double machine, but you have a freshman who's already doing doubles and, which has a lot of promise. And so they got some tools under their belt for sure, Isabel.
They do. They're exciting.
Now, another team that people were really excited about last season, but I'd love to get your take on it this season, is UCLA. What do you see them doing in this women's basketball season?
Here's the thing. A couple of years ago, UCLA missed the tournament, and after that, I was so high on them. I remember talking to my editor's ear off about UCLA because they had a lot of injuries. I do believe Corey Close is a pretty smart coach. So after that 1 year where they missed the tournament, they've just been kind of like rising, and they're still going to be doing that, making it to their first Final Four. That's huge. And your key player there was Lauren Betts, and that was a breakout season for her. And to me, a lot of the times when it comes to getting that far, you need a leader. And she's obviously become that leader. Like she was a leader before, but just coming out of her shell and playing the way she did, that made a huge impact. And her coming back, that was her breakout season. This year, what's she gonna do? I feel like she's just gonna build on that. Obviously, her sister, Sienna, right now it's kind of like iffy whether or not she will be playing at the beginning of the season because of an injury, but I think she can also contribute. UCLA overall is just very solid, good leadership, and overall talented roster.
Yeah, I agree. I am really interested to see how they bounce back after, in a lot of ways, falling apart in that last bit of the tournament for them. And they also had a lot of people transfer, and that really. I know that transferring is like a common thing now in basketball because of NIL and certain things, and I get that. However, to lose that many players is a huge thing to chemistry, and it will just be really. I'm really interested to see how they come back. What their chemistry is really looking like, how they kind of work through the ebbs and the flows of having new teammates, and how the rotations happen, and also just how you bounce back from, even though you had the most successful season for you, that last game wasn't great. And in a lot of ways they fell apart. And so seeing how they bounce back from that, I think will be really interesting for this UCLA team. Now, I mentioned Jordan before, Jordan Lee. We all know how I feel about her, everyone. But how do you feel about this Texas team that she's on this season?
I actually love Texas. I know so many people counted them out to make a deep run in the tournament because they didn't have a lot of shooters. They didn't have a 3-point shooter. But Texas, their defense is always so good. I also talked to Vic Schaefer recently, and defense is, like always, they will have a two-header monster, Kyla Urdacher. Like she's expected to kind of have maybe even more of like a breakout season because now she's going to be like the two-headed monster returner. But I think with Texas too, one is like, of course, the defense, but also with offense, they've added some players that's going to help there. And it also, again, back to leadership. I know I keep mentioning like the top stars, but I think that's important. I think obviously Madison Booker, so good. Rory Harmon too. And I feel like it's crazy to say, but kind of underrated because her stats were not like popping off the stat sheet last season, but she was playing with a brace. And Schaefer said it that the year after you come back from an injury, like an ACL injury, you're not quite 100% like you are, but you're not 100% who you were before. So I'm just so excited to see her just come back to her vintage self. Because just remember 2 years ago, she was one of like our top players. And right now people are not talking about her as much because obviously Madison Booker just surprised us all. But Rory is so versatile on both sides of the court. Her defense is amazing. And now, with more of an offense on the team, I think she can really shine.
Yeah, when you have Madison Booker and Rory Harmon coming back and playing the way that they do, I mean, you have two stars that are coming back to your team to contribute. And then they're just as deep as they were before, in my opinion. Lee and Preston are on the rise when it comes to sophomore play, right? They're both sophomores, I believe. They have the talent, they have the chemistry, they have the depth, they have all the pieces really to win a championship. They do. And they just all love Coach Schaefer. Like they love they love playing for him, and they love that just like beautiful, gritty, maybe not gritty is not the word, but just solid style of basketball, like textbook basketball that he coaches. And so you definitely can't X out Texas from any equation in this when it comes to the season in women's college basketball. Definitely looking forward to watching all of these teams this season, Isabel. And right now, I'm looking forward to our favorite segment of the week, and that is our AT&T Guarantee of the Week presented by AT&T. Now, this feels a little early for me. I'm not going to lie, Isabel, to be guaranteeing what we're about to guarantee. However, this week, we are going to guarantee the 4 teams that are going to be in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for women's college basketball this season. So go ahead, Isabel. Who do you got?
This is hard. I know it's a guarantee, but it's really hard because it is super early. I do think UConn, like that one's, that was easy choice for me, an easy choice for me. I do think UCLA, they can do it again. I feel like it's hard because you come from being an underdog and overlooked to now having that target on your back, but I still feel like they can do it. Um, I think South Carolina, obviously. We've talked about Don Staley. And the last one was the toughest decision for me because I feel like that could be a lot of different teams. I'm gonna go with Texas. I'm just gonna go for a repeat. I know that's crazy. It probably won't happen, but I think Texas, they made it that far, lacking those shooters. But now that they've kind of added more on that side of the court, they can do it.
Okay, well, listen, like I said, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm going to tell you who my four are as well. UConn, I'm with you on that 1000%. There's actually people are saying that they could go undefeated again, and it's very possible. So if you're going to say that, you can't say they wouldn't be in the Final Four, and that's for sure. South Carolina, I'm always going to bet on South Carolina. Like I said, they've gone 5 years in a row to the Final Four. I believe that this year will be no different. Texas as well. I have Texas in there. They were so close last year to advancing, and I think that they've added the right pieces to the team. They have that depth. I can see them definitely just building on what they had this year very easily. So I would say Texas, and then I have LSU. I think that LSU. I mean, I sat there and talked to Michaela Williams last year, and she said that they was going to go to the chip, and I believed her when she said it. But also, I think just in general, when it comes to the LSU team, just like the transfers that they've had, kind of the success that we've kind of seen with them early on, whether it be in a preseason game, which I know is way too early to truly assess, but I just like what I saw. And also I like what I'm hearing from the team as well. I mean, you have Flau'jae Johnson, Michaela Williams, Fulwiley. I mean, the list goes on and on when it comes to the players that they have on that team, the system that they're in, and I could definitely see them going to the Final Four. So, yeah, I don't have UCLA for the reasons that I just kind of talked about, but I'd love to see what Sienna Betts has, and we will, hopefully with all the health things that are going on. But I think she has a leg injury that has her out for a big part of the first part of the season. And I just don't feel from what they did last season. They had a historic season for UCLA, but I just feel like they're just going to fall just short of the Final Four this year. In my way too early prediction, let me say that. It's like, Emma, you mean for having us do this early? I'm just playing, but it is a lot. But that's how I feel. So listen, let's guarantee it. Let's put a stamp on that. We'll see which one of us is right.
I was going to be thinking about this, and then I woke up and I changed my mind again. Because it's hard. It's a hard decision. Even 10 minutes before this call, I was like, am I sure about this? So
yeah. I don't know. We gonna see. One of us will either both be right or one of us will be right. We'll see how it goes. But a lot is gonna happen this season. Many great things. Looking forward to watching it. But as of right now, that's what we got for the guarantee of the week for sure. Now we're talking about the teams that we have solidified, right? The teams that we think are going to be in the Final Four in this way too early prediction. But what teams do you think will surprise us this season? Because there's a lot of them on the cusp, Isabel.
There really are. I'll start with maybe an easy one. I think Oklahoma. They've showed a lot of potential. I think Reagan Beers is a really terrific player. She's been a terrific player for a while. And then you are going to be adding Aaliyah Chavez to that roster. So, you already have a star player, and then you add another top freshman. To me, that's not too hard to predict. I don't know if that's a surprise, but I think it is because, it's been a while since they really made a super deep run in the NCAA tournament. I feel like this is their year. I think they can do it. So that's my first one. Do you want me to keep going with the others, or do you want to jump in?
Well, I'll just jump in with one that I'm really excited about, and that's TCU. They had a really great season last year. It was fun to see the run that they had, going to the Sweet 16. Haley Van Lith is no longer on the team. There's a lot of pieces that people are like, how are they going to, fill those with the team that they have? But they have Olivia Miles. And when I talked about transfers earlier, she's one of the transfers that I'm super excited to watch because I feel like we only got a little piece of what she can do on the court. And that was phenomenal to watch when she was at Notre Dame. She is really like excited for the season. You see the fire that she has. And also, when I speak of fire, this team is always a team that has some type of fire under them, whether it be they feel like they've been underserved, like as a player, maybe not seen, that they've been through a lot of either transfers or haven't been given a chance. And I feel like Mark Campbell always puts together a team that is fired up for one reason or another, and they all come together. And we saw that last year. It was very much a team of players that didn't get enough shine where they were at, and they made their own shine on the biggest stage. And so I'm really excited to see what TCU does again this year. Coach Mark Campbell said during the Big 12 Media Day that they are the hardest working team that I've been around in his 18 years, which is saying a lot. And so I think TCU can be a team that really surprises us again like they did last year.
Yeah, I actually had TCU on my list as well. And I think it's not even just the players not maybe shining in their previous school, but I think it just talks about like the whole coaching staff being good at making it feel comfortable again. Like Haley Van Lith just kind of like got her spark back. I know that sounds so simple, but that's honestly what she did. And yeah, with Olivia Miles, I think she's been one of the players we've been watching for so long that we had such high expectations with her and Hannah Hidalgo together. It didn't quite work out, but I feel like when you have such a talented player like that, putting her in that system in a team that honestly for me last season, they were like the biggest surprise. They were so underrated, and we kept seeing them win against big teams and people were kind of like, well, but is it real? Are they actually that good? And they were that good. And now they've had that 1 year of like a breakout season, I guess if you would call it that, like a really surprising season. I think they're going to keep that momentum going. So I agree. I love that pick.
Yeah, I love it too. And just as much as I love TCU, I think Duke is a team that you 1000% have to look for because they have just been building and building and building on what they've had every single year. They've been getting better as far as I'm concerned. And when you look at what they have on the team, they have Taina Mayer named to the Nancy Lieberman Award watch list, returning 4 starters. We've talked about a lot of change for teams, but this team is returning 4 starters from a team that won the ACC tournament and reached the Elite Eight. They have Toby Fournier, who is one of the most gifted and talented players that is in the ACC period. But I would also just say in women's college basketball, they have a much watched freshman. They're just really, and Emily Skinner, they're just stacked and they are returning 4 starters. I mean, how could you not have that on your list of teams to watch?
No, for sure. I really like them too. I think starters returning is such a big thing because we don't see that all the time, not since the transfer portal got so crazy. So that matters. That chemistry matters because that means early in the season, they're not going to have to kind of like figure things out because they already know what to do. So that's a good one. I think my other one, it's the Fighting Irish. I know they are in rebuilding mode. I know. Well aware of this. I know there's 3 scholarship players returning. I know only 2 of them actually played last season. Well aware of that. But I feel like Hannah Hidalgo is such a great player. And I think we stopped talking so much about her because, they didn't quite meet expectations last season. But if you think about it, those are pretty high expectations we have for a team like that. But she is one of the most exciting players to watch. But I also talked to the 2 seniors, Cassandra Prosper and KK Bransford, and they are ready to embrace a bigger role. I know it's tough because, you have to build that chemistry with a whole new team. But I think people forget that, having those returners as seniors, as veterans, with something to prove, kind of, I think they called it the feisty underdogs. That's the theme they're going with this season. I think that's going to help them, honestly, without that target on their back, with, like a fresh new start. I feel like they're going to be dangerous.
Well, we will certainly see if the feisty underdogs do what we think they're going to do, and we'll be looking out for all of these teams. But when it comes to matchups, Isabel, there are some really good ones coming down the line. What would be your top matchups that you think everybody should lock in for?
There are a lot, but for sure I circled Oklahoma versus UCLA on November 10th. I already talked about both teams. I just think it's going to be so fun. If Sienna Betts can play, you're going to have number 1 and number 2 freshmen competing against each other. But even if she doesn't, I still feel like these are 2 teams that have a lot of potential, but they're not quite as solidified as like UConn, and South Carolina, where it's not like a no-brainer answer, because there's some question marks for both, So I think this is a matchup between 2 really strong teams that really kind of want to prove that they do belong there. They want that question mark out. So that's going to be really fun. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. And just like as an extra bonus, I'm looking forward to USC and South Carolina, because even though USC is sort of also in rebuilding mode, it's going to be played at Crypto.com Arena. I feel like USC fans have really shown up recently. I think that's going to be a fun environment. I'll be going to that game. So also looking forward to that one.
Yeah, there's so many matchups. And I think what is so much fun for me in this early part is just seeing how people show up and how they play against each other. I think any game, if we're being honest, is going to be a good game to tap into and watch, because there are so many great teams this season that you're going to get just so much great basketball. But, like you said, Oklahoma versus UCLA, definitely tapping in for that one. The freshman matchup is going to be just unparalleled. So that's definitely one. Duke versus South Carolina on the 26th, I believe. Both powerhouses, both teams that we've talked about in this pod as being either a breakout team or one to watch. Well, they're definitely both teams that you should watch. So that one for sure. And then TCU versus NC State. We talked about TCU extensively about how we think they're going to do well this season. NC State is equally one of those teams that was, they had a really great season for themselves, and we know that they can do even more. We just want to see how both of these teams are going to match up against each other. So all of these are great matchups. I mean, must see. So many. And I know you're going to be watching all of them because you're going to be writing about all of them.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I usually do top 10 preseason, and I'm sitting there and I couldn't just pick 10. So I was like, I'm doing 15. So that tells you a lot, because writing these is not easy because you have to scout every team. But, 15, it seemed, more manageable than 10. So a lot of good games.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you really quick. This is kind of off the cuff, but what is your favorite part about writing about women's college basketball, and what's the most challenging part?
I think my favorite is really getting almost like a behind the scenes and inside look at the players and coaches. I always love to ask things that are not necessarily about basketball. Like with Vic Schaefer, I was like, hey, what do you do over the summer? And he loves fishing, and he does, I think it's called wade fishing. And you go in the water, and he has 2 boats. So he's serious about it. Sometimes sharks come and they grab the fish off his hook. He's in the water with those sharks. Some of those are bull sharks, which are dangerous. So it's really cool to just see the personalities behind these coaches. Like you look at Vic Schaefer, and that same greediness he has playing in the SEC or coaching in the SEC, you see it in his hobbies. He's like, sharks, no big deal. So I love stuff like that. With Dawn Staley, we joke about how she's gonna write a murder mystery with basketball theme. So things like that are just so fun. And then getting to know them as a person, I think really helps you to see how that chemistry and how everything's going to come together on the court. Most challenging, I feel like it's so many teams, honestly. It's so hard to keep up with everybody because there are so many college basketball teams, and you want to watch as much as you can, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult. You have to have a schedule to make sure you're not missing games, and you can't just watch the top 10. You have to watch a lot more. So I would say that's challenging, but it also makes it really fun because it's always something unexpected.
Yeah, well, if it's anything like last season, it will definitely be unexpected in a lot of different ways. And we'll be tapped into everything that you're writing. But before we go, Isabel, what is your bold prediction for this season?
I feel like you ruined it for me earlier because you talked about UConn potentially going undefeated. That's mine. Like, I feel pretty good about the fact that they can do it. I looked at their non-conference schedule. They have some challenging teams there. But just based on this team, like how deep it is, the leadership, I wanted to touch on these earlier. I think the last game of last season, the championship game, it gave us a good look at what we can expect. Because if you remember, Paige Beckers did not exactly shine in that game. Like, she was good, but she didn't take over. And I thought that was a perfect transition because that was Sarah's and AZ's games. So that was their team, and they took over to win the title. And now here they are coming back. So for me, I don't know. I'm sure they're not perfect, but I think they can go undefeated.
Okay, that's definitely a bold prediction. We shall see. I think my bold, wild prediction, I have a lot of them actually, but the main one would be while I think they will have their ups and downs this season, and I think that health will definitely be a factor. So we'll have, a pulse on that with them as it is with any team, but with them they've already had their ups and downs in the health area. I think that the Gamecocks are going to take it this year. I do. I think that they're going to be fueled from last year. They've stacked the roster in a lot of different ways. They brought some really powerful offense into it, which they definitely needed from last year. They still have the defense. They're becoming a more well-rounded team. They're looking at like who's going to start and all of those things, right? And I just feel like, when I see things like Dawn Staley saying that this team is unafraid, it just gets me so excited because we already know what Dawn Staley can do as a coach. We know what her coaching staff can do too, because it's not just her, it's a whole staff behind her. But also these players want it. She has some transfers that definitely want to shine and succeed. And I just feel really good about kind of the things that they've plugged in, the little adjustments that they've made from last year. And also with Dawn coaching, it's just, I just really think that they're going to prevail. I'm looking forward to watching this Gamecocks team this season because I just feel like after last season and I guess you could say they underperformed. They really didn't. I mean, they were in the Final Four, but I just feel like they're going to go all the way. That's my bold prediction.
I think that's a good one because usually my concern with South Carolina is that offense. Like even when they won the championship, the most recent one, I was concerned about their offense. So the fact that they do have more of those pieces, it makes them dangerous. So that's a good prediction.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if our predictions become true. I mean, one of us got to be wrong, right? Because if you're saying they go in undefeated and I'm saying South Carolina is winning,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I guess it could be, but I don't know. We're going to see if our predictions are right or wrong.
I just hope I didn't jinx them. Like, I'm so sorry, UConn. Like,
knock on some wood. Knock on some wood. You got some wood near you? Knock on it. Here, you fine. You fine. But regardless, what we do know is it's going to be another year of excellent college basketball that we're going to be watching. So make sure that you're locked in all ways, whether it be these ways or tap in with the QR code that's going to be at the end of this episode, because you're not going to want to miss any of the analysis that we have. I'm sure Isabel will be back. Thank you for being with us today. And make sure you tap into all of her articles that she has, as well as all the coverage that we have right here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.